Hey everyone, welcome back to the YOUnify podcast. If you're new here, my name is Brandyn Keating. I'm the co-founder and CEO of YOUnify, a nonprofit organization helping you flourish and thrive. And I'm also the host of our podcast. I'm really delighted to be here today with Rei Chou. Rei is a pioneer in human potential through the art of experience design, convening, and embodied leadership and innovation. She was named one of Fast Company's 100 Most Creative People. Rei founded The Feast, which has inspired and facilitated collaborations among leaders of organizations ranging from the White House and NASA to MTV and the Rockefeller Foundation. Rei, thanks so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you could be in person with us here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. So Rei, you have described your work as helping people live their magic, which I love. Yeah. But can you kind of unpack for folks what you mean by that and what that means to you right now?
Yeah. So I feel that everyone has many different kinds of gifts to offer to the world, whether it's specific talents or just ways of being, listening to others or having enthusiasm or lots of smiles for strangers.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own unique signature and qualities. And when we live our lives with meaning and purpose, sharing that in ways that feel enlivening to us, something magic happens, right? We get to live fully, we get to feel fulfilled, and each and every person gets to come alive in this very unique way that is of benefit to our own lived experience as well as the world at large.
Beautiful. And you yourself have brought so much magic into the world in so many different ways, some of which we just sort of previewed here in the intro. Before we get more deeply into your body of work and sort of the next bit of magic you're bringing into the world, I would love for folks to hear a little bit more about young Rei and what you were like as a kid and how you became you.
Oh, fun. Okay. So as a kid, I was always fascinated with like animal fact books, Captain Planet. Some of you may, remember that show or, remember this feeling of just like wanting to save the planet. That was something that I was always connected with. And also this unique thing where, does anybody remember X-Men if you're watching?
Of course, yeah.
I remember the character Storm and how she could control the weather with her hands or just by conjuring it. And I remember feeling as a kid that I could do that I could
That's so cool.
Move the wind or feel things around me moving. And so fast forward many years later, I become an energy worker, working on social impact stuff. The seeds were all there. So always really passionate about creating change and always connected with energy, which just kind of continued as I grew up, if you will.
Yeah, incredible. So your career spans social innovation, community building, and energy healing. Curious about how all of these different paths came together.
So it started with the most sort of like rational or in front of me approach, which was social impact work. So wanted to do something about making the world a better place. And so naturally, initially went into trying to create social impact in a variety of different spaces. That's where I started the first iteration of The Feast as a conference on innovation for social good.
Oh, nice.
Started bringing together, people who are creatives and business people like me who weren't necessarily volunteering per se, but were coming from different creative industries and just, again, had a particular skill that was unique to them.
Yeah.
It might have been fashion photography or music. not the traditional sort of like policy, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
necessarily. But we all got together and said, we can do this better. We can use
Yeah.
our skills in different ways to do things differently. So that was the first take of me trying to find how I could use my gifts for good. And I found myself convening people, which is a
Mm-hmm.
natural thing that I do and part of me. And then as I went along, honestly, the only way to explain it is having a sort of spiritual awakening.
Oh, interesting.
Where, I was doing the social impact work, I was leading this big conference addressing change, and had a sort of undeniable spiritual experience that sort of sent me down a track of working with energy.
Mm-hmm. And for folks maybe who aren't familiar, can you just say a little bit about what working with energy means?
Totally. Right. Not like nuclear energy. I mean, has
You're
that
not
before.
creating bombs.
Yeah. Or even, wind turbines. So spiritual energy work, there are many different approaches to it. There's, Eastern medicine healing. There's the kind that I work with, which is all enlightenment based.
Mm-hmm.
So many people have heard of Reiki as sort of one example of energy work that allows the practitioner to move energy through their system and to someone else's. And so when I say that, physics says that we're all energy.
Yes, science says so.
Science says we're all energy. You may have heard about personal development perspectives that say, it's all about your energy or the quality of states of being.
Mm-hmm.
So energy work really just supports people in moving whatever energy is within them that is, stuck, or a false idea that doesn't serve them and that doesn't represent who you truly are, right? Which in the enlightened perspectives is that you're already whole, you're already divine, right?
Yeah.
And so the energy work that I do is really just about helping people return to their natural order.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, I think, who are trying to live more into themselves, or who find themselves on a pathway that's maybe more heart-centered, I think because of the way our culture is, often experience a shift from like a more head-focused way of living life to a more heart-centered living way. And as a person who was already sort of experiencing the seeds of what would later become your energy work as a child, I'm wondering if you experienced such a shift, or if you sort of started in this unique place where it was always heart-centered. What was the journey like for you?
Oh, yeah. No, I think I probably have a journey that mirrors a lot of people, which is that, as a child, you're pretty trusting and open.
Yeah.
And then situations happen in your life that you need to figure out or understand how to manage or make sense of, that starts to draw us up into the mind and out of the heart and out of the safety of the body.
Yeah.
And so I think that actually a lot of my social change work was driven from trying to fix the world, trying to make everything safe, trying to make everything okay. And that it was actually, orienting towards the future, orienting towards fixing problems was actually a trauma response.
Oh, interesting.
So after much time working on my own healing process and starting to deconstruct the reasons that I leave the body, leave the heart, jump into the mind, jump into the conceptual, jump into the future, started to be more and more able to be here right now with what is, to feel the intensity of that, and to orient to what is the most aligned, inspired, important thing to do for me versus trying to fix and heal everything, suffering from burnout, and oftentimes I think not empowering others to do their part as well.
Feeling like you have to control it all, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And I think that much of the world, the mind is a gift. It's such a blessing. And I feel super blessed to have a brain that works really well. I consider myself a pretty good thinker. And to have the mind in service to the heart.
Yeah.
And to realize when it is that we're operating from fear and scarcity versus from the heart and true love and connection. I think, the social impact world and the world overall, right, is often oriented too much from the mind to try to protect, to try to make everything okay, and to try to control.
Yes.
Versus enabling and supporting the thriving and flourishing that I think YOUnify is here for and about, and that the feast is too.
Yeah. And there's so much, just the human condition in general can kind of push us out of the present moment. And today there's so much to distract us with our devices and our overscheduled lives. For anybody watching, is there a simple practice that you would recommend if they were to start with just one thing after this podcast that they could do to help bring them back to the present moment? Is there something simple you'd recommend folks start with?
So I think there's one conceptual thing and then one practice. I'll start with the practice, which is there's a meditation I love. It's about the five senses. It's a 5-minute meditation. You spend 1 minute just noticing each sense. So you notice what you see for 1 minute. You notice what you hear for 1 minute. You notice what you taste for 1 minute, smell, etc.
Yeah.
And it sounds so basic, but when you start to slow things down, 1 minute can feel
1 minute becomes really long. All of a sudden,
a really long
right?
time. And it starts to orient our perception away from what is outside of us into the interoception, right, of what's happening inside. And from a conceptual perspective, I think that's one of the most important things we can do, right? Our culture is built upon grabbing our perception, our consciousness, our awareness, right? On selling that. Why is that so valuable? One has to start wondering, wow, what happens when I value my own perception and consciousness and awareness enough to draw it back to myself and orient to what it is that I want or, feel inspired to do. And I think that 5-minute meditation starts to help bring the awareness back inside you so that you can then begin asking those questions, right? What is it that I want? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do next? What do I want to look at, right? And sort of start to reclaim the sovereignty of your own awareness.
Yeah, the attention economy that everybody's talking about now is the attention economy for a reason, right? And it sounds like, in order to be able to fully unleash all of our inner magic, we actually need to reclaim that. So it's a great practice. And I might even suggest folks start with 10 seconds each and work their way up.
Yeah, totally. Start where you are.
So let's dive into the feast.
Yeah.
So can you share with folks just kind of the basics of what is this thing called the feast and what originally sparked its creation?
Sure. Yeah. So the feast has always been based in that idea I was talking about. Everyone has a gift, right? Everyone has something to share or offer to the world. And that when we bring that to the table, we have a feast. Right. And so the feast has been many things over time. It's been this big conference. It's been addressing social change. And these days, there's two parts to the feast. One is an actual dinner experience where we get together around the table and start to ask what it is that we're hungry for and what fulfillment and satisfaction actually looks like and what it is that we already have in abundance, right? And so it's a beautiful experience that connects you with strangers or existing friends and family in ways that get below the surface conversation, right? That give you a chance to sit and actually listen to each other and to reflect, on what you want in your life. The other reason that this is important is that, it offers an opportunity to see that everyone's hungry for something. Right?
Yes.
Everyone has desires and dreams and just ways that they're feeling about the world right now. And it gives pause and a space to actually have that feel heard or to even hear yourself say it out loud. And it also suggests that within each of us, we actually have what it is that we're already looking for, right? Naming our hunger gives us an opportunity to orient to what it is that we're actually after and understand what it is that would actually satisfy that. So beyond everything that we want to achieve in the world or do in the world, the feast asks, what is it that you would get to feel as a result of achieving all of those things? And that is at the heart of the feast, the gold of the experience, right? To say, wow, what I'm actually after is X, right? Once you know that, you can't unknow it.
Exactly.
And however much you go about actually pursuing that, once you know it, is up to you. But once it's shared and honored and named, and especially done so in a community that is there to potentially support you,
yes,
there's a new possibility, right, for the direction that you want to go, the things that you want to do or pursue, or the ways you want to just get curious about that. So the feast is this sort of dinner experience platform. It's a place to break bread. It's a place to connect deeply, and it's a place to orient to our satisfaction in a world that is driving us through scarcity.
Yes.
Right? To say, actually, we know what we're after and we have enough, which supports abundance, right? A realization of abundance personally and in a community. The second part of what the feast is, I started it as an innovation conference. And over the course of time, through my own healing process, I think I started to get much more curious beyond ideas about embodiment. And so these days, I think what the feast is asking is, how do we embody a culture, an economy, a manifestation of abundance, together in community through our lives? And so the other part of the feast is a cooperative of cooperatives that is seeking to create, like a collective system of flourishing and thriving that mirrors the cultural awareness that the dinners is creating for a community.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's so much there. And I love, how you said, once you know what you're hungry for, you can't unknow it. Because it seems like such a simple question, right? What are you hungry for? But it's actually so powerful. And there is so much, I think perhaps because there is so much in our current culture that tries to help us unknow what we're truly hungry for. So being able to pause and really reflect on that question, which I was able to do with you in a group of folks. And even as a person who tries to self-reflect all the time and lives a life centered on abundance, it was striking to me how powerful it was, both for myself personally and for the room, to break bread and reflect together. And I'd even invite everybody who's watching just to take a pause for a minute and consider that question, and maybe even type it into the chat if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're seeing a clip of this across other socials, something that comes up for you that you're hungry for. You might be surprised what you find. But I want to also key into what you were saying, Rei, about the embodiment, and then moving from the conceptual and the discussion to actually, what are we going to do in our own community about this? And the cooperative concept. So for folks who are unfamiliar, what is a cooperative, and how would a feast experience maybe connect to that?
Yeah. So cooperatives are something that have a million different shapes and forms, depending on who's coming together to share ownership and governance, and the generative output of collective endeavors, right?
Yeah. So the idea is there's a collective of people working together, could be living together.
Yeah, to create different businesses or ventures. They can have nonprofit or pro-social expressions as well. But from the standard definition, I think, cooperatives are about shared governance, shared ownership,
Yes,
and the pooling of collective effort and resources in ways that are, equitable, and diversify power, right? So really, again, part of why I think this is important for the feast is, and why it's an embodiment, is it is a structure that affords people sovereignty, agency, empowers them with their own vision and with their own decision-making process, which again, YOUnify is just all about, right? And saying, we are wiser together, more capable together, stronger together. And so instead of having a purely top-down approach to how we do things, it's about welcoming everyone to the table, right? And again, part of why the feast is pursuing this is that once you have an awareness that I want to operate from a place of abundance, right? I'm building a life that exemplifies that. I don't feel that we have many systems or expressions in our capitalist culture. I'm not saying capitalism is bad.
Right.
It's just that I don't know that we have seen that many models that really embody or offer people an option for how generative, how participatory, how equitably shared resources can be in the way that we want to see them. Right. Everybody says that, right? Everything's a mess. We want something different, but what does it look like?
Yeah.
And I think that requires both sides of the coin, right? It requires a level of awareness to be able to step into that kind of structure and say, no, I don't want to play the game of biggest, fastest, best, most money, 10x, for myself.
Yeah.
I actually want to create things with people in a way that is more generative and shared.
And where everybody can have enough, right?
Exactly. And so I think that's why we're pursuing both, which is to say we need the consciousness shift and the growth on that side. And then we need the process and the infrastructure and the architecture and the models for how we live this in practice in our lives, in ways that create tangible value.
Yeah. Well, and part of what I love that I feel like I hear in what you're saying is we can do this. Like we can do this. We don't have to wait for some decision maker out there to balance the scales. We can actually do it together. And folks might have seen in their communities maybe a food co-op that is a worker-owned food store, or they might have seen a housing co-op where people have shared governance for housing. They might have seen some expressions of participatory democracy or participatory governance in their communities, or maybe heard about the citizen assemblies that are coming in the U.S. and a couple that have taken place. So we have these little green shoots, and I feel like what you're doing with the feast is you're saying, like, all right, everybody, come on board. We can break bread and we can do this together, and we can create a new expression more broadly. We don't have to wait for somebody else to water these little green shoots. We can make new ones ourselves. Is that kind of on track?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that going back to that living a life of magic piece, right? There's so many things that are on fire and so many things vying for our attention. But what will help us all achieve this shared vision, I think, is each of us really knowing what part of the puzzle we play.
Yes.
Right. So whether that means you're meant to be a musician or you're meant to create policy or you're meant to whatever, knowing what it is that you're hungry for and what satisfaction looks like immediately helps to orient you within the larger system. And if the larger system can start coordinating and collaborating, then we don't need to have this scarcity fear that, we have to fix all of the problems everywhere all at once. Everyone's got their track. We're all coordinated. We're all like working together. So that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
And that's why both parts, again, are important. The self-orientation and the sovereignty and the independence and self-knowing, and then the collaboration piece so that we can all play in an orchestra together.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so if people are feeling inspired, maybe they want to learn more about the feast. Maybe you have a toolkit, right? If folks want to host one, they could do that. If they want to find one, they could do that. Maybe you could share a little more about how would you find a feast? How would you host a feast? And maybe if they want to support your work, support expanding this, how could they do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the big things that we have in the works is a big dinner campaign coming up this fall. It's called the Big Invitation. It's 100 dinners across the country. And it's an invitation to anyone to host their own feast dinner.
Beautiful.
So we host our own with our own facilitators and have beautiful experiences. And if you get in touch on our website, you can learn more about those.
Awesome.
But again, to the self-empowerment piece, our invitation is for, anyone watching, anyone who's interested in participating to register to host your own feast dinner. Bring together friends, bring together family members, office workers, people in your community, your church, your kids' soccer team, whoever, and sign up to host a dinner. If you make your dinner a fundraiser for this campaign, we'll send you the toolkit for free.
Nice.
And the aim of the campaign is to have a soul-nourishing experience, right, around the dinner table, reflecting around hunger and fulfillment and orienting to what you want. That is also benefiting actually feeding people, right?
Right then and there.
Right then and there. So
Amazing.
hosting, turning your dinner into a nonprofit fundraiser. People could give $10, they could give $100, $1,000, whatever they feel good about.
Whatever contribution is appropriate
Whatever
for them.
contribution, yeah. And that will go towards supporting regenerative farms in regions across the U.S.
Incredible.
To get food to food pantries to be able to serve those who wouldn't typically have access. So we're supporting on both fronts those who are championing regenerative agriculture and regenerative systems in relationship with our planet and getting food to those who need it, right? We're also looking to work with organizations who might want to use the feast dinner as a way to support their own nonprofit fundraising. So if you're a food bank, if you're a local farm, if you are a composting program in a city, please feel free to get in touch. And, we would love to talk to you about how this format might be able to support. And then the last piece is just, if you are someone who is passionate about food, if you're a chef, a restaurateur, someone who funds food systems or agriculture, someone who's interested in personal empowerment, and seeing local groups, do this kind of work and connect and build community. Would love to invite people to reach out and get in touch. We're already collaborating with a whole bunch of influencers who have been put in touch, media and food brands, things like that. So, 100 dinners is our baseline target. We've already had people offer to themselves host 100 dinners, bring together friends to as a challenge to themselves as a group to host 100 dinners. So 100 dinners is our baseline. But if anybody has any ideas for, what they'd like to do, we are basically offering a very simple out of the box structure to have a meaningful reflective experience, and any ideas for how to turn that into something that is meaningful for, your community or anyone that, people touch, happy to explore.
Yeah, amazing. So folks, we will have all the links. And do you want to just say out the name of the website?
It's feastongood.com.
Feastongood.com. So folks, we're going to have all the links to get involved, to support what the feast is doing in the description and across our socials. And if you feel inspired by the content that you've been hearing today, we also invite you to take an action right now of liking, sharing, commenting, hitting that subscribe button so that more people can get access to this information. So that's something you can do to help right now. And you can also, if you're somebody who likes to support with philanthropic dollars, the Feast is operating as a nonprofit organization, and we're delighted to be partnering.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a link below as well where you can give a tax-deductible contribution to support the growth of the Feast if that's your thing. And again, also to be able to host a feast or get involved in any of the ways that Rei described. So Rei, our time has just flown by. It's been such a pleasure to have you here. Maybe a quick parting thought for folks.
Yeah.
Is there something that is feeding you right now?
Good question, Brandon. It's funny. I feel like I like many people who work with food as an impact medium.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a huge foodie.
Funny.
There are a few other people who are like very big names in the space who are like, everyone thinks I'm a foodie, but I'm actually not.
Yeah.
And so one just fun thing about being in LA has been, people introducing me to different like chefs and restaurateurs. And I'm like, this is going to be really fun. Finally going to get to eat like really great food all the time. But the other piece that's feeding me, I think, is just seeing people lit up. You know? We have personally been convening people with the feast and this process and seeing the really beautiful connections that become available. And to be able to share that more broadly right now and to see people inspired, offering to connect and to bring this into their world feels exciting. And I can feel an aliveness in I think we're all looking for ways that we can have a positive impact in the world right now because of how intense and crazy things are. And so I think what's feeding me is the potential for us to gather in a space that says, we are enough. We have enough. And if we can coalesce our awareness and our effort together, we can weave something tighter and more beautiful that the world has never seen before and start realizing our power.
Beautiful. Yeah, well, that is the invitation, folks. And we look forward to seeing you all next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rei.
Thanks, Brandon.
You and Bella have a busy day today.